Grog.
Hey everyone, it's Matthew here. Just before you enter the shed this week, little reminder that this Friday, the 11th, will be the deadline for joining the Cider Shed Podcast Fantasy Football League. So Friday the 11th at 5:30pm is your deadline. The instructions on how to do so you will find in the pod description. It's very easy. Set yourself up, pick a team, and then you just join the league using the code given. Any doubts about that, just message us and we'll give you a few pointers. Okay, well that's it. Off you go into the shed, and I've fulfilled my lifetime ambition of speaking over a Ski Sunday theme. Bye.
Grog.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Cider Shed Podcast. I'm Matthew Weir, and I'm joined by Keri Warbis. Keri, you just told me you have something to tell me about last week's episode.
I do. I did something silly last week. I haven't told you this, but I don't know if you remember at the end of last week's Cider Shed pod where you mentioned someone called Benjamin Snowden, and you did a whole little jingle saying that you thought he was Edward Snowden.
Yes.
Yeah, the jingle. Well, and I sort of went, oh, I love Benjamin Snowden. I might go for a drink with him in London. Well, I've got a feeling there's a terrified Benjamin Snowden sitting somewhere, because it's a totally different person. It's Benedict Prothero that I'm thinking of.
Benedict.
Who I might go for a drink in London with, yeah.
He used to be quite active on Twitter. I haven't heard from him in a long time.
Exactly, that's why I said, oh, he used to be on Twitter. That's a shame. It's the wrong bloody person. I'm so sorry about that, Benjamin Snowden.
Well, it's quite suitable that the sound was an alert going, Benjamin Snowden, like alerting him to the danger that you've just convinced yourself you're going for pints.
Yes, so I just wanted to explain myself to the terrified man.
We'll talk about those jingles later.
You're not bitter at all, are you, Matthew?
Let's put an ad in here, and then Keri is going to pitch her cheese board all over me.
Oh.
It's Peter Fickling here from Swindon. So should we chuck an advert in? Right.
I want the Archers every week to just be Bridge Farm failing a pitch to a business. And I want Adil to have mysteriously bought the business they're pitching to every week, and he just keeps showing up. I mean, like, hard cheese, hard no, I'm afraid.
Oh, he was magnificent, wasn't he? So perfectly pitched opposite those two cretins. Because she, Helen, suddenly went, oh, I forgot to do anything that I should have done to do with my cheese business, which is my whole life, work-wise. And she's basing this, right, on a conversation that she had with Adil a year ago, where he vaguely showed interest in mozzarella. And now, because she hasn't even bought the frigging milk, which, did you know, is a key component of cheese?
I did know that.
Okay. And so she's sort of going, I can knock up a test run next week for you. This whole thing, she didn't get her accreditation renewed in time, nothing. I know she's been slightly distracted, shall we say.
The husband that coercively controlled her for several years, then she stabbed, then she went to jail, and then he kidnapped their son, is back. So that might take your eye off the ball as regards mozzarella production.
It could.
I'm just playing cheesemaker's advocate here.
But Tom didn't remind her or anything. And not only all of that, she thinks it's Adil's fault. She thinks that how can they possibly trust him? He's broken 2 promises to them about them having the cheese. And it was so brilliant, wasn't it? It was, I've already got a supplier, thank you, Celia Sparrow. It was just great. I loved it. It was the highlight of the whole week so far, that he just went, no, thank you, goodbye. And then they went back again, didn't they, with the cheese board, beautifully presented.
He walked in and went, oh, what's this? And she went, I've made a cheese board. And I think he said something along the lines of, I can see, because Of course. Like, it's a fucking cheese board right in front of me. And then he ate it all, went, this is absolutely delicious.
Anyway, mustache. I've got other stuff to do. See ya.
So he's tasting the cheese because
Mm.
his head of food
Yeah.
has left, right?
They were on a trial, weren't they?
Or were they on trial?
And he didn't get on with them. When he said head of food, I imagined a head of food and was thinking of, you know, like in Close Encounters of the Third Kind, where he makes that sculpture out of mash
Yes.
of the hill. I imagined a head of mashed potato.
I think I know what's happened here. Roy has conspired with Mike to get Mike the job as head of food. And Mike has come in and just keeps eating everything without actually bothering to review it or give feedback to Adil. Let's not forget Mike is Davros.
Yes.
Where are those 7 different brands of profiteroles I got?
I'm sorry, they've all disappeared.
Why is Adil doing everything himself?
Well, this is a good question.
As a chef, I would expect him to at least be having a say about what was going out on the cheese board.
Yeah, definitely. He, as sort of site manager of the rebuilding, is he the guy who buys the cheese?
No.
Really? No, exactly. And also, the head of food position being an open one. Anyone in the village who you reckon could go for that?
I feel you might have some suggestions, Keri.
Well, you know, there's your girl, isn't there?
Who? Which one? Fallon?
Yeah.
Which one? Sounds like I've been playing around.
Yeah. Yes, stud. What does head of food even mean, though? Is it just purchasing, like sourcing ingredients, purchasing, getting seasonal stuff? Is it all that kind of thing?
Yeah, but the head of food is going to work in conjunction with the kitchen and the bar and the food and beverage manager, front of house. I'm convinced of it.
That's the job I want. Head of drinks.
The whole thing is bizarre. I mean, do you remember when this place closed? It closed. Oliver... Adil was doing his kind of slightly creepy stay there back last April. Oliver broke the news in April that, this guy that has been walking around acting like he owns the place actually does own the place now. And we're closing in 2 weeks. And they closed in early May of last year. And then Roy got that really weird job where Adil just put him on like some kind of fetish dog collar and walked him around the grounds, kicking him up the ass. What's happened since? I mean, we know that the interior is ready because Tracy burst in and had her hen night there. But there's something I really like about Adil. Like, he is nice up to a point, but when it comes to business, he's ruthless, isn't he?
Oh, yeah. Well, not just business, though. He can just shut people down really well, can't he? He's great. Like he did with Tom, didn't he, in the cricket? His charm offensive totally backfired. I loved that.
What was that about?
He thought it was a really, really wily ruse, didn't he?
Yeah, I know. I'm going to be his new best mate.
Sparrow. Yeah, Celia Sparrow's his friend, and he's given her the cheese contract for that. So I will become his best friend within a matter of sort of 24 hours to get the other contract. Because Adil so far said he only is interested in the Borchester Blue, isn't he?
Yeah.
But for some reason, Helen wants to suddenly rebrand Sterling Gold. Rebranding? She sounded like a handbag, didn't she, Pat?
Pat chat.
What's the name of that woman that says that?
A handbag? I know it's in The Importance of Being Earnest.
Oh, God,
anyway,
I can't believe I forgot that.
So suddenly, like, just based on this one contract, Helen wants to just scrap that. And I think Pat was quite right to go, what are you talking about? And then her compromise was the bits you give to Grey Gables, of which how much would it be anyway? Is it just like a couple of rounds?
Where have they been selling this cheese? In the
year and a half.
Yeah, that this place has been bloody closed. This is a ludicrous storyline.
Every aspect of it is, isn't it? Apart from Adil making them two look like tits. That's very good.
Yeah, that bit's good. I might go back and find the conversation on which she's based all of this. Because I think he just said something along the lines of, oh, that sounds promising.
Yeah, I love a bit of mozzarella me. Anyway, I'm off over here to do something different. And based on that, Helen's just had this fantasy where nailed on, they've got the contract for all cheeses at Grey Gables. They're getting really arsy about the fact that it was Shropshire. And he went, well, it is in the Midlands. Shut it.
And she said, what next? locally sourced cod. I thought she said locally sourced God. I thought they were putting Jim on the menu.
Yeah. I did have a slight fantasy that I hoped Adil would go, actually, I don't want the Borchester Blue either, because I've been buying some cheese from this couple of farmer lads down in Hampshire way. Titch Cheesner.
Oh, I'm almost tempted not to acknowledge that joke because you never got my Herberto Tichenor joke about 6
No, I
weeks
didn't.
ago.
I'm
But,
sorry.
No, that's all right.
Yeah.
I did have a mild fantasy
Mild cheddar.
that Rob's actually bought Grey Gables, and the whole thing is Adil just slowly winding him up, like Tom, and winding Helen up on Rob's instruction.
Oh. Well, how could Rob afford that? I want this to happen.
Well, I had that theory about a month ago that he'd won the American lottery and was just buying hospitals and paying actors.
Yeah.
Even Tom said, what if he set this all up this week, didn't he? And Kirsty said, how could he set it all up? Wouldn't it be amazing if that's what's actually happening here?
And so would he still die?
No.
And then it would be handed, or the whole thing. He's not got the tumour or anything.
No, I think what they do is
Okay, great.
He dies, by which point Henry has convinced Jack to push Helen to have the funeral, like the wake or the removal, at Grey Gables. And halfway through the ceremony, he just pops out of the coffin as like, I bought the hotel, and munches into a bit of Celia Sparrow's cheese.
Yeah, he could leave it to Giddy Jack, couldn't he? And then he lords it up over the district and doesn't buy any of Helen's cheese when he's in charge.
He's as likely as Matt Crawford or Hazel to be the new owner, isn't he?
The 60%er.
The fact that whenever this storyline comes back around, you're like, the whole nature of how this place is being run is not how it would happen.
Yeah.
Even the locals would be outside with fucking pitchforks by now going, here, Ardell, who owns this bleeding place?
He hasn't even mentioned, I don't think he has anyway, when it's actually going to be opened and launched and stuff, has he?
They said the renovations could take over 12 months. But as we've heard, the rooms and the bar are ready. So what's
room was, where all the bedrooms? I know where she had the bash was, but I didn't know whether the rest of it was.
I thought Oliver made reference to the rooms being ready as well, because Adil was concerned about people going up to the room.
I suppose if he's sourcing cheese, which is insane as well, then they're getting ready, aren't they, to open?
We've asked a couple of members of the cast. They were like, we don't bloody know.
Yes.
We don't know when it's opening.
Yeah, so that's ridiculous, as is the fate.
Brad
Yeah.
was brought into the fold as treasurer.
Yes.
It was essentially just to manage a cash float. He has now been, he got accosted by Lynda at work, who told him, yeah, you don't need to do your job, just sit here and talk to me. If Trent had walked back in, Brad had probably lost his job, because it sounded like there were loads of tables completely left with plates all over them and stuff like that.
She's so nasty sometimes. She's such a controlling, bullying harridan sometimes.
She went from not giving two shits about the fate in that conversation with Joy, which, by the way, let's not forget, Adil was talked into being a bloody palm reader at that last year. Can you imagine that happening now?
Well, it's Thursday as we speak, and the fate is on Sunday. And she's only just getting a marquee. She sorted the silver band or whatever. But she felt that having any just music over a tannoy was grotesque.
Yeah, and Brad also had to point out you'd pay for that. And the fact is they'd managed to book 2 bands and lose 2 bands. But this is because Eddie he delegated that to his mate, Terry Two Bands.
Yeah. Oh, God. I really hate the fate anyway.
Hate fate. There were some gold moments in there, buried in there. The whole Brad exchange where Lynda went, well, if his plans did work out, and Brad just went, they won't know.
Yeah.
Far be it from me to suggest this was happening, but there was earlier talk between Chelsea and Mia about, well, how important Star Wars is to him. Yeah. A lot of the dialogue and the subject matter tonight was of betrayal and going against the code, and I have to do this, it's my destiny, and it's all lifted from Star Wars, all of that stuff.
Nerd alert!
Yeah, it's good that you recognise that, because I don't. And it's, for those of us who've I watched it in the cinema, didn't really get wildly into it. It was all right. Harrison Ford's good.
I actually saw Star Wars in the cinema. in 1977 when it came out. I don't remember much of it, but I saw it.
Mm.
I was about 3. I thought you were going to say for those of us that have had sex.
Oh, it's okay. Just people who get over obsessed with these sorts of things, don't they? It's like people who get into Doctor Who, really, sort of to a weird extent.
What, like Mike
Ducker.
Yeah. You've spotted those references. Well done. There'll be loads of people who haven't at all, who aren't.
Yeah.
What's the word for Star Warsian folk? Like Whovians. Is there an equivalent?
Just really well-adjusted, sexy people.
Okay. Right. Yep. Good.
He used cocked up twice, didn't he, as well, Brad?
Is that in Star Wars as well?
Yeah. Yeah.
You have cocked up, young Skywalker.
Are the lasers like penile extensions?
Do you mean the lightsabers?
What did I call those laser beam torch things? Are they penis extension type things?
I think part of our midweek Patreon special should be a movie review show, Keri, where you and I go head to head. I mean, Highlander was the perfect example of that, wasn't it? Someone was upset there hasn't been much Highlander chat recently.
Please feel free to put @Keri Warbis and Highlander into Twitter, and you'll find a whole tweet along that I did all by myself. I watched it, put a few jars in, and described the whole film.
You also managed to suck in the writer of a book about Highlander into the tweets.
I know.
He started answering back, didn't he?
Yeah. Oh God.
Another favourite moment of mine in this whole fate thing was where Eddie was like, I need your help, Lynda. I've messed up. Well, she said you couldn't organise 2 mugs on a shelf. I thought he was going to say, that's no way to talk about my sons.
I don't like Lynda.
She can be fun.
Not often, though.
I was more interested in her when she was totally dismissive and just like, let them get on with it. Because I felt at one point she was just like, give them enough rope.
Oh, and all that's, right, where she was going, we must save the fate. We have only 24 hours to save the world, or whatever. That's from a film, isn't it?
Is it?
Isn't it Flash Gordon? And we have 24 hours to save the planet. I'll have misquoted it very badly.
Tell you what, if any sci-fi enthusiasts who've got slightly serial killer tendencies are listening to this, we're both dead.
Hey, did you ever see Flesh Gordon?
No, but I've heard about it.
Oh, it's good. It's funny.
Yeah.
I can't remember watching
Is it like
anyway.
softcore porn?
Yeah.
Okay. Speaking of softcore, bimbo core. Mia described Chelsea as that.
She did, didn't she? And I don't know what that is.
More on that later.
Okay, good.
Brad basically opened up and said, it's all ferrets.
Yeah, she said, is there anything non-ferret? That was quite a good line.
Well, yeah, there's the climb the greased polecat, deep throat the stoat and David's gas the badger.
Also, Eddie sort of going, everyone loves ferrets. No, they fucking don't.
You know, we had that little WhatsApp conversation this afternoon, and I said, Brian's on the combine. There's going to be an accident, because I was re-listening to Wednesdays.
Yeah.
Paul showed up and wanted to do a photo shoot with Weaver, and they went to the office,
handy.
and he was like, let's get Weaver up on the computer like he's searching for things on the internet. And Stella was like, he's a dog, Paul.
Yeah. What have you taken? He's taken some ketamine.
Hey, Weaver, I mean, like, I don't know, maybe if you're comfortable, I don't know, maybe if you could take your top off. Just if you want, right?
Yeah, because I was focusing on how weird that was and didn't notice that Stella said, which you did notice, that she said, oh, I really, need to hurry up, or I haven't really got much time because I'm taking over the combine from Brian at 6. And you were like, oh, that's because Brian's on the combine, something's going to happen, thinking Brian was going to cark it on the combine or sort of.
Yeah.
I was hoping he was going to steer the combine, veering off into loads of the cast members and wipe the acting budget by a significant sum for the BBC.
Not Stella.
Well, not Stella, no, but quite a few others. That'd be good. Like just veering off around the village, having had some sort of episode. That was my hope. And then we'd be left with about 5 Archers actors, and they could afford to do that then, couldn't they?
Keri wants to return to the monologues, everyone.
No.
Yeah, you didn't think that one through, did you? I mean, I thought at one point it could be a massive, like, Weaver could have gone into the tractor.
Yeah.
Ed swerved to get out of his way, hit the combine harvester, and then I had this vision of Brian just pinging out like an ejector seat, going into the workings of the combine harvester and just...
Oh, God. Yeah, maybe Weaver, because they sort of sat him at the computer momentarily. He sort of saw the controls of the combine and thought, oh, I can do that. I know how to work a computer now. Gets up in the cab. Weaver drives the combine all over the village. Was it Brian driving it? Because I thought it was. And then some people on Twitter were saying it was Ed.
Ed was driving the tractor, which was pulling a trailer. Brian was on the combine harvester, as far as I could tell.
So was it Brian who mangled Weaver?
No, it was Ed.
Oh.
Yeah, because Ed was inconsolable, apparently.
Oh, was it? I didn't notice that.
Yeah, I like that bit where Stella, she was trying to make Ruth feel better, and Ruth was like, but it was me that had hold of him. She said, Weaver's a powerful dog. And I thought Ed was going to come in with tractor's a write-off.
I did a really nonsensical tweet in this case then, because I put that Brian not only is going to be haunted by Jennifer, but by Weaver. But it's Ed. And I know Weaver's not dead yet, but it's going to die. And then what will happen is Stella will be inconsolably grief-stricken, which she wasn't today. Obviously, he's not dead, but she was very non-hysterical, and I really liked that. But I bet you she loses it, and then Pip will offer her bosom to cry on in the tent.
I mean, we touched on it last week, not
her bosom.
Pip's bosom.
She's got one bosom, and Stella's got one leg. Match made in heaven. She's a mono boob and a monoped.
You know that there is a genre of movies out there that deal with that.
Oh, stop it, is there?
Yeah, and it ain't flesh.
Mono, anything you've got two of, you've just got one, and that sort of turns people on, does it? So would it be mono eyes, mono ears? They're not very sexy, they really are, they ears. Mono knacker?
You should know, because you said up until recently you were playing with the original version of Trivial Pursuit. In the Science and Nature section, there was a question I remember as a kid. A polyorchid has 3 or more what?
Oh, is this to do with your cat's toes again?
No, that's polydactyl. Polyorchid is something else.
Polyorchid. Well, an orchid's a flower, isn't it? Plant. Is it to do with? It has those. Is it those stamen bits in the middle?
Okay, I'm going to just leave it hanging out there for the listeners. If any of you know what a polyorchid has 3 or more of, or if you actually played the original Trivial Pursuit, Keri, I'll put you out of your misery at the end of the recording.
Okay.
Get in touch on our socials.
Polyorchid lives in Felpham, doesn't she?
Yeah, Adil's just signed her up for a camembert contract.
Quite near EV charging station, I think.
Yeah, and Verity Fun.
Yeah, it's not to do with is it? Is it people who have... Is it... What did you say? They have 3 of these?
3 or more of something.
Is it...
I never talked about polyorchid before, but I think it's ingrained because you've been playing that copy of Trivial Pursuit since 1985.
How many is too many?
Well, 2 is the desired number, isn't it?
What's the most amount, though, is what I mean. The most amount
I mean, I don't know, because it's 3 or more. I presume you can have...
God, I'm going to have fun looking at that later.
Joke removed, as Matthew, head that he is, gave away the answer.
By the way,
Right.
I mean, Weaver might be looking for fight soon because Alistair said, don't worry, we've given him hard man solution. So he's going to come at, like, ripped to tits going in the ball going, what are you looking at, mate?
Like, if he does survive, he's going to be sort of a bit of a mess, isn't he?
Well, I don't know. I will say this. I don't know anyone from the people I know live in the English countryside would have their dogs out anywhere near farming equipment, on a lead or not.
Yes.
Seemed really strange to me that they were doing that.
Why did that happen? Why was Weaver not on a lead?
Or in the office with Paul taking photos of him. The whole thing was weird.
Do you know, Matthew, I've noticed something. Quite a lot of the Archers is really weird.
Yeah, it's your tagline, isn't it? The Archers is weird. Your son thinks the sea is weird.
Yeah, everything is weird. Is my bio. It bloody is, though, isn't it? Show me something that isn't weird.
Don't ever ask that to a polyorchid.
Fucking is weird, though. Maybe it's is Brad not weird?
I don't think Brad is weird. He had a little... His attempt at the Chelsea growl was a little weird tonight, wasn't he? And he just went... "Urgh." He hasn't quite got it, has he yet? Chelsea's been coaching him. But he's not quite there.
That was at Lynda, wasn't it, I think?
I think he also did it with Mia when his conscience was getting the better of him. I mean, Mia had a fair point when she said, do you think Eddie would give 2 shits if it was the other way round?
Yeah.
Wouldn't lose a moment's sleep. They also said that Stella had suspected that Weaver had always been involved in hair coursing. Is that like a service that Chelsea offers in her salon?
Yeah, she's really good at hair coursing, is Chelsea. The hair thing, that was all a bit like, oh, it's just made me realise that when I found the dog tied to the railings, I did wonder where its history was. Now I realise it's chasing after things in front of tractors and that.
At that point, I think Keri's battery is slightly worn down. So I tell you, here's what we're going to do.
Yeah.
We're going to take a break, which is going to be a slightly longer break for us than it is for you, dear listener. And we'll be back. We've got quite a lot more to get through. Okay?
Hey, did you know labels are so that people can identify things?
I didn't until I listened to The Archers this week.
Yeah, it's very educational.
Wasn't there a point where they said something about like you can't put labels on people? And I was like, hang on, that's what they're doing. It's exactly what they're doing over there.
Yes, right. To be continued.
Don't touch that dial. We'll be right back after this word.
Welcome back, everyone. Keri, it's Friday. Yeah. Weaver's not with us anymore.
No, who could have predicted such a thing?
Well, I hoped for the best because, you know, yesterday you were talking about Flash Gordon, weren't you?
Yes.
And Brian Blessed is in Flash Gordon. You know his most famous line?
Is it the one that I tried to say yesterday?
No, it's where they think he's dead and he's not.
No, what is it?
And he says Gordon's alive in a really big bellowing voice. And we know an actor, an award-winning actor, who does a very good Brian Blessed impression. And even though he's on a camping trip, I asked him to do this, which he did.
Okay.
Weaver's alive!
Weaver's alive. Oh, it's nice to hear him.
Now, then, obviously, I must tell you, because I said to him originally, are you in a suitable location to voice note me yelling Weaver's alive in style of Brian Blessed in Flash Gordon, which he did. And then I messaged him back and said, oh, Weaver's being put down right now. Might have been a bit premature. And then he sent this.
A pity poor Weaver. I love that dog.
I love that he's in the middle of the Sussex countryside, being Brian Blessed near a tent.
Yeah, there was a little bit where he was being Brian Blessed. There's some outtakes where he's being Brian Blessed and Cyrus is chatting to him in the background.
Oh, that's good.
He's trying to incorporate it into the impression.
Is Cyrus going, Daddy, what's he doing? Daddy, you're scaring me.
Why have you put those giant wings on and are wearing a suit of armour?
Yeah.
Oh, wonderful contribution from Peter there.
Yes,
taking
indeed.
some time out. Where is he? You're familiar with where he is?
Yeah, he's at the Wowo campsite, which is near Sheffield Park, which has the Bluebell Railway. So when you're camping there, you can hear the steam locomotives go past from time to time just to add a little colour to the scene. It's a huge campsite, but done in quite a sort of Brighton type hippie kind of way. You know, it's not carry on camping at all. It's TP. You can take your own tent, but it's got really good stuff for the kids to do. It's quite wild. There are streams, tyre swings. They do hog roasts, and there's a pizza van occasionally, that kind of thing.
Okay, how does it differ from Centre Parks? And I don't know anything about Centre Parks either.
Centre Parks is like a sort of huge built place that costs an absolute fucking fortune to go to, and it will have different restaurants inside it and a massive swimming pool and a spa. You can do tree walks and hire bikes, and yes, it's really different.
There was that thing, was it last year or the year before, where they suddenly had to evict a load of people overnight and kick them out? Do you remember that?
Why was that?
Oh, something to do with staffing or something. I can't remember what it was. And there was lots of people saying, like, you've literally been training these people as ninjas for a week, and now you expect them to leave. It's going to be like the Hunger Games. I will say this. When my dad's last dog died, I mean, he kind of clung on there for a long time. But in the end, they called like a vet and his assistant, and they put him down at home. They put him to sleep at home. And, yeah, it was all quite emotional. And they went out to the van to do some paperwork and stuff like they have to do. And my dad went out to see if they wanted a coffee or a tea, and they were both in tears in the front of the car.
Oh.
You know, that whole scene with Alistair and Paul, I think that's quite true about, like, sometimes it just starts to get to you. I think as well, you feed off the emotion of the person as well, don't you? I think that's what happened tonight. Like, Stella got quite upset. I like that bit where Alistair just went, he's dead, Stella, you can stop talking.
Yeah, I know. She didn't get that upset then. She got more upset a bit later when she was talking to Ruth, and I thought she was going to snog Ruth then.
It swings and roundabouts, isn't it? Is it going to be Ruth? Is it going to be Pip?
I would far prefer it to be Ruth for so many reasons.
I'd much rather it be Pip.
No.
Yeah, I can crap off to that.
Oh, I'd quite like David to be shocked, and I'd quite like Pip's awful, Ruth's less awful, and I think they're closer in age. They sound better together to me.
Yeah, I mean, I think Ruth is older than Stella, and obviously Pip, being the daughter, is much younger.
Is that how it works?
Cider Shed. Breaking news.
Daughters are younger than mothers, although in some families you get aunties that are younger than cousins and nephews and what have you, don't you?
That used to confuse me so much when I was a kid. I remember this girl I was at school with, like in infant school. I remember her telling me one day, my cousin's getting married today. I was like, what? How's that possible? Yeah. What, in a nappy? So Weaver's no more. Why are they killing him off? It obviously has to serve a purpose. Otherwise, they just wouldn't have this, would they?
Yeah. I did think she was going to get emotional about it in the tent with Pip. So that could still happen, couldn't it?
Do you think she's still going?
Oh, what? I thought you meant, still alive?
No, I mean, do you think she's still going on the camping trip?
Yeah, why not? It's at the bottom of the garden, isn't it? She's not got far to go. What else is she going to do? Oh, and also someone on the tweet along when she said, oh, look, Ruth, here are the photos that they took. Someone on the tweet along thought that they'd photographed the dead dog.
Jesus.
And she was looking at them and I was like, well, I hope they're the ones from the office that Paul took earlier.
Yeah, I think when they go through the photos, it's going to be like when they go through the photos of Patrick Troughton in The Omen, and it's got like big black lines going through it. And they're going to catch like a shot of Eddie in the background, evil-eyeing Weaver. Ed, sorry, not Eddie.
Well, what do you think the reason is?
To make things more difficult at home farm, maybe, to make things a little strained. When Alistair offered, like, do you want to come down? I thought she was going to say, can you do a 2-for-1 with Adam?
Because I thought that there was no lead involved. And then actually Ruth was holding the lead and lost control of the dog. So maybe she doesn't seem to be blaming Ruth, but will Ruth blame herself? I don't know.
She might reconsider after that lasagna.
I know. Just when you think your world has ended, Ruth presents you with a bloody lasagna. That's all you need.
Got another needle there, Alistair.
And she said, it's only a lasagna. And Stella went, oh, it looks lovely. And I thought she can only be viewing that terrible lasagna through very teary eyes to think it looks lovely.
Yeah, we have yet to find out the purpose of this happening, but it hasn't happened for nothing, has it? Otherwise,
will she get another dog, do you think?
Pip will get a dog and it will solidify their bond.
And it will solidify. The dog.
Leave it outside in the frost.
Oh, mate, what do you think? People go, you are, Stella. I know you're really upset. I've got you a rescue dog to replace it.
Yeah, as long as it's not what's her face, Rosie in a dog costume.
Oh, did you see that guy?
The bear?
No. There's a man who has he's been all over Twitter and in the news, who paid thousands of dollars to be a border collie.
Oh yeah, I did see that.
Yeah.
Oh, he paid for that. I didn't realise that.
Yeah. He's sort of fully wants to transform into one. And it was pretty convincing, wasn't it?
Yeah.
There was a film of him being walked around. So maybe Rob could sneak into the village as a border collie.
Maybe, yeah.
to get to Giddy Jack.
He'll go full method as well. He'll hunt Bess.
Oh dear. Yeah. And do a shit somewhere.
Outside Helen and Lee's house. Helen, that's the 10th time that border collie's been there shitting. I saw the bear in the Chinese zoo that everyone was saying was actually a man in a bear costume.
Oh, waving. Yeah, it was stood up, wasn't it? Waving at people. Yeah. What do you reckon?
I think it's just a bear that's developed some very strange habits. My friend that grew up in Hungary told me that they used to get like these touring circuses with bears come through there. And one of the bears escaped once, and the snipers were following it through like these little hillside villages. And at one point, it just came across a bike, pushed up against the wall, and got on it and tried cycling away because it had done that in the circus.
That's hilarious, isn't it? Hey, isn't that where Rosie was born?
What, in Hungary?
Hungary.
Poor Rosie. And there was that thing about 10 years ago where there was a dog dressed as a lion in a Chinese zoo. Do you remember that? And it had like a fake mane on it.
Oh, for goodness sake. Yeah. Are any animals actually real, do you think?
That's a good question. Listeners, are any animals actually real? We've got that and the polyorchid question, so get in touch.
Because wasn't there a thing where some people thought that all pigeons had sort of cameras inside them and bugs and what have you, and were not real?
Some kind of military coup.
Well.
Oh, they found me.
They've come for you because you've revealed.
A couple of things I wanted to do. Keri, chant with me. I'll start and you join in. Okay. Mm-hmm. The cheese is good. The cheese is good.
The cheese is good. The cheese is good. Did you see my tweet?
Yes. Wasn't quite good enough for Adil, as we talked about that.
Yeah.
Eddie said to Mia when he was trying to run away from Lynda, you can tell a lot about someone by the way they walk. It's like, wonder how Adam walks. I imagine him like moving down the street, like the way David Byrne from Talking Heads dances, like doing some interpretive dance kind of moves.
I immediately thought of, those walking trees in Lord of the Rings.
The Ents.
That was strange. I didn't like all that fate stuff, Lynda. No.
The only thing it was interesting was Eddie at one point kept claiming he was in the cider shed doing something that was too important to abandon. I was like, is he making jingles for the listeners?
Is he going to come on?
Yeah.
That'd be good.
Speaking of which, made some jingles last week for people. I said, if anyone emailed the cider shed email, you would get your own jingle. And I did that. And nobody said anything about it. So either they stank the place out or people were just over.
One person did, Matthew, didn't they? Yeah, there was one person on Twitter. But okay. You didn't get the full range of responses that you'd perhaps hoped for, did you?
Yeah, I mean, I think they were possibly reviled. But luckily, I said that I would only do it for new Patreons from now on. So that's what I've done. So we've got 2 new Patreons this week. We've got Ryan McConnell. Ready for this one, Keri?
Yeah.
Welcoming. New Cider Shed Patreon, Ryan McConnell.
Welcome, Ryan.
Yeah, thanks for joining the merry throng, Ryan.
Yeah, that felt a bit Logan's Run, that jingle. So we're not gonna bump you off. Don't worry. This one is from Phil Wilkinson, who also got in touch via email. Well, no, he messaged the Patreon. I'm going to play his next, Keri, and I apologise in advance for this. Okay, and to Phil.
Said, ooh, girl, sign up like this guy field.
Bit of MGMT there.
Yeah, they were over last night. They came round my house.
Yeah, that was very good. Couldn't quite tell what you were saying at the beginning, but I heard Phil mentioned.
It says, ooh, girl.
Electric Phil.
Sign up like this guy called Phil.
Because it's Electric Feel, is it?
It is. There you go.
Good man. Thank you, Phil, for signing up.
He emailed us and he said, hi guys, finally pitching in on Patreon, mostly in recognition of your commitment to commentary on The Archers than my wavering listening commitment. I think the only characters I've liked were Walter and Nelson Gabriel, and they are, like my youth, long gone. Thanks for your great wit and humour, Phil. Well, Phil, that was a band called MGMT, who were a popular beat group, big with the hipsters, and they came out of the New York scene around 2005. So if you're there going, what the hell was that?
Popular beat combo.
Lucy got in touch last week to say, midweek episodes are good for me, even though I'm behind schedule this week, but that's normal. So yes, I mean, they will drop occasionally, those midweek episodes. Someone else emailed the Cider Shed email this week, which is hello@thecidershed.com if you want to get in touch. This one was from Matt Clay. Great name. I like that.
Yeah.
Hello, Keri and Matthew. I just listened to the Cider Shed for the first time. I've been meaning to for a long time after finding you both on Twitter. In fact, I only go on there now to see what you two are saying about the Archers, and I'm considering reducing who I follow to just you two. Blimey. Well, strap in, Matt. I enjoyed it very much. Thanks for making me giggle on my way home from work. After Chelsea Horrobin made me laugh on my way into work with her, yes, well, it's very probably toxic impression of Mia Grundy. Yeah, she did do a good version of Mia, didn't she?
Yes.
By the way, what's Patreon and what's Bimbo Core? I'm 39 and feel I should know what at least one of these things are already at this age. Well, Bimbo Core, as far as I know, is that aesthetic that got very popular in the mid to like the first decade of the noughties. There was like that barbification of like, you know, Claire's accessories, glitter in the hair. Suddenly like pink and purples were very popular again, and, you know, glitter and stuff like that. That's what I consider it to be. Mia used it as a pejorative, didn't she, to describe Chelsea. And Patreon, Matt, www.patreon.com/The Cider Shed, is where you can support our podcast by becoming a Patreon member, and you get the episodes early and ad-free, and you also get midweek episodes probably like every fortnight as well with me and Keri.
Bonus ones they are. Yes, that you can only hear if you're a Patreon supporter. And you needn't pay an awful lot of money to be a Patreon supporter. I think sometimes people don't investigate because they think, oh God, how much do you have to contribute? But it literally can be the price of a pint.
Cheaper than a pint.
Oh no, better not say that. Actually, that's quite expensive nowadays. Yeah, it is price for half per month.
He goes on to say, I have no one else to chat about the Archers with, as my husband doesn't have the attention span. My cats are asleep, and my mum is 6 months behind catching up on episodes, so thanks for making me realise I'm not alone thinking George is a pillar. Thanks and take care, Matt.
Oh,
there you go. Thanks,
lovely.
Matt. And
I have 4 new reviews. Isn't that amazing? I think, is that the most we've had a new in 1 week?
I think so.
Sure. Yeah. I like the title of this one, Review. And it's from J Ridge ***, and they have written, podcast is very entertaining and relevant to the title. Now press 5-star review button.
Yeah, it's almost like you said last week, you don't have to say anything. Just write a couple of words.
Yeah, exactly. That helps us so much. The next one is by Rain Boom CJH, and their title is Love It. Really enjoy the podcast and look forward to it every Sunday. Seem like really down-to-earth people and feels like you're chatting with old friends. Great work and long may it continue. Smiley face. Old friends. And then we have one from Steadman Doubles.
Loving these names.
Yeah, I know. Makes sense of the insanity of, and then it must be the Archers, I presume. Laugh out loud funny with witty jokes, awesome jingles, Matthew.
Oh, thanks.
And plenty of additional chat. Hurrah! And then the last one is from Old Mary from the Dairy. And the title of this one's good. Anything, anything, anything.
They really took it to heart, didn't they?
And they have put, you brighten our Sundays with a crying laughing face, Mary from the Dairy.
Love it. Thanks so much for those guys.
Yeah.
The instructions on how to leave those reviews are in our podcast description every week, as is a link to our Patreon. I did notice when I was on the Apple iTunes page yesterday that the reviews don't appear if you're looking on a PC, and therefore the ability to write the reviews don't appear, but they still appear in the phone.
Okay.
So yeah, we've also got a Facebook group, which is called the Cider Shed Podcast, and we have an Instagram, which is called @the_Cider_Shed_Pod. Kate sent me a photo of chicken in a biscuit from Australia, a product which I thought didn't exist anymore, but still does. So very excited about that.
Chicken in a biscuit.
Oh, I knew you were going to pick me up on this.
What is it?
It's like a salted chicken flavoured cracker.
Ah, okay. Oh, that sounds quite nice with a beer or two. Yeah,
they're great. Do you remember those fish and chips you used to get?
Oh, yes. Yeah.
They're a bit like that kind of like almost biscuity, but salty and crispy at the same time. But there's a range of flavours, and this one tastes of chicken, and it's the best one.
Okay, cool.
So yeah, you can find us on Instagram @the Cider Shed Pod, and I believe that's also the handle of our Twitter, isn't it, Keri?
It is at the Cider Shed Pod is our Twitter handle, and the tweet along can be found #TheArchers. Loads of insanity goes on there. Join in, please.
Go on.
We haven't really touched on Eddie's treatment of Brad this evening.
I knew it was a joke straight away. I mean, he's just not like that, is he? I mean, he is. I think his ability to turn it on to that level means he does have that in him, but he didn't care about that because he wanted to kind of give the fate responsibility the slip anyway, didn't he?
Yeah, he quite enjoyed making Brad squirm, didn't he? But what are your thoughts on how Brad reacts to things and how literally he takes everything?
Well, somebody messaged our Facebook. I mentioned a couple of weeks ago, I'm concerned about Brad's reactions and his memory. He seems to forget things a lot. I wonder if they're going to go for some kind of on the spectrum but maths genius kind of storyline with him. I mean, I thought yesterday he wasn't being forgetful with Mia when she was telling him stuff. He was actually just totally distracted by guilt.
Yeah, me too. But, you know, we shall see. They're kind of writing all of that quite large with Brad, aren't they? Because Mia and Chelsea had a conversation about, you know, he likes putting everything back in its right place, doesn't he? He likes rules and, you know, they were quite obvious possible signposts.
Large groups of people as well.
Yeah.
Like a sensory thing, maybe. Yeah, I mean, maybe
possible.
they're heading for that. One thing we didn't talk about yesterday, Tom and Kirsty at the beginning of the week, he asked about Prague, and she went to Prague with
Sexy Erik. Erik.
Yeah, but sounded quite underwhelmed when he asked. What are your thoughts?
I don't know. My first impression was that it hadn't gone well. On second listen, I was like, she's just saying, "F off, Tom. I'm not talking about this with you."
None of your bloody business.
Yeah. I mean, it could be one or the other, couldn't it?
I don't know. Her tone was quite flat, which could be because she was a bit cross. But I thought you could sort of go, God, it was amazing, and then just change the subject. Or she didn't. It was noticeable that she was reacting in a sort of slightly surprising way, I think. I don't know. It didn't sound like she'd had a good time.
No. Well, I think we will find that out later. I mean, I hope Erik. I hope Erik comes back. He was great.
Well, now that Weaver's dead, they can afford another character, can't they?
On that note, everyone.
It's an imaginary dog, don't worry.
I know. It's probably, and the fact is, you know, it's some Foley artist going in the background.
It's probably Peter.
He is award-winning.
Yeah.
Okay, Keri, have a good rest of the weekend.
Yep. I've got Brighton Pride this weekend, 100% rain tomorrow. And I've got to cross Brighton from my house to the other side of Brighton through Pride to go to a friend's for dinner. And there's no public transport. It's going to take a long time to get to my friend's house with Mimi.
No doubt Lawrence Fox is posting that this is God's punishment against Brighton or something, isn't he?
Oh dear. Well, if I see him, I'll make myself known to him.
Imagine Chris Evans not being your worst ex-husband.
Quite the feat. He was once on my aeroplane. I don't know if I've told you that.
Who, Chris Evans?
No, Lawrence Fox. Before he went like this.
Before he decided there was money to be made being a right-wing grifter.
Yeah. He was on my flight, looking very much the sort of hippie with bedraggled hair, and I think he might have had a guitar with him as well.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen him performing his songs on Jeremy Vine or whatever it is?
I think I have, and it was most dreadful.
Yeah, it's worse than my jingles.
Your jingles are great, Matthew. Don't you do your jingles down?
All right, Keri, off you pop. Enjoy the weekend.
And you, my darling. See you next week.
All our listeners, have a lovely weekend too. Patreon people, you'll be getting this earlier than the others. But the rest of you, have a great Sunday.
We can hate the fate, can't we?
We get a bit of fate hating on Sunday night. We've yet to find out what this massive plan that Eddie still has, because he tried to rope Brad in as well.
I bet he's dressing himself like a ferret, like that border collie.
Okay.
Yeah, that'll
all right.
do.
So
that'll do, pig.
All right.
Bye.
See you, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.